Hello friends. So, I welcome you all to the sixth lecture of our course Business to Business Marketing. So, in the past we have been discussing about the various differences about the B2B B2C market, about the nature and the scope of this market, right? How business marketing is different from the consumer market. And in the last lecture we also went through a small caselet to understand and get a feel of the subject. So, today I will be talking about some few more concepts, right, associated with the B2B market. For example, the three important concepts like the value chain mechanism, the core competency theory given by Prahlad, and the concept of outsourcing, which is also largely known as the make or buy decision, right. So, these three things I am going to elaborate, and then finally I will try to again give a small caselet so that for the clarity of everyone and you also participate in the caselet, right. So, what is value chain analysis? So, if you can see, it is a process of observing and identifying the deficiencies in the various activities in an organization, ranging from design to distribution. Now, for example, let us say any organization, it has got several aspects of it. So, it could be like the design of the material, the design of the different parts, the getting the raw materials, processing the raw materials, and even making the final product, then even distributing the product. So, all these things together, right, from ranging from design to distribution is a value chain analysis. Here we are trying to, if you can go by the word, we are trying to generate value at each step of the value chain or the supply chain, you can say. At each step of the supply chain, we are trying to add value or generate value. So, this concept is a very popular concept, and it helps business managers to better identify useful and wasteful activities. So, if there are several activities which we will see in the next slide, so how you can identify the important ones and which are the less important, or where the company is not doing well, right, where there is an opportunity to grow or opportunity to create an higher efficiency productivity. So, these activities are identified, and overall value chain analysis can be used to potentially identify value improvement opportunities throughout various steps of a business cycle, also adding to the improved margins of the company, right. So, this is a simple example of the value chain. Now, there are two things attached to the value chain. One is the support activities, right, and the other is the primary activities. Now, and all these things together add to the green color, if you can see here, the margin of the company, right. Now, what are the primary activities that a firm does? Now, the primary activities are, for example, the inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales and service. Okay. So, what do you have in inbound logistics? Now, inbound logistics is something like when you are trying to get the raw material or anything, any part from outside to the company, right. So, from outside towards the company. So, it has got real time inbound inventory data. So, inbound logistics consists of how many trucks or vehicles you have, what kind of material handling processes you adopt, what is your warehouse, where is your warehouse located, what kind of warehouse capacity you are having, and what kind of inventories you are already having in your stores. So, all these are a part of the inbound logistics, right. So, once the raw material comes in, so if you can understand that every point now, how many vehicles you are using, what kind of material handling devices you are using, or what kind of material handling techniques you are using, and what kind of warehouse policies you are having, all these things provide you an opportunity to add value. So, if you are not doing well in some aspects, then you can improve upon it, right. Second, when you come to operations, so there are some standardized models where we try to adopt how to process. Basically what we do in this step is the processing, right. So, processing. So, the processing of the product or the production of the product or something, right. So, operations here, there are different kind of techniques that can be adopted. There can be change in machinery, there can be change in the assembly line, there can be change in different aspects, right. So, how you can improve your operations, right, your operational efficiency, how you can improve upon that. So, all these things are a part of the operations, and the company looks for scope to improve its operational efficiency. The third thing is, once the product is done, it comes under the outbound logistics when it goes for outside for, for distribution or sales. So, here the order processing is done and the company tries to utilize the full capacity of the vehicles. Okay. And here the objective is to reduce as much as handling costs and the handling defects and breakages and all that can happen, right. So, once you can understand outbound logistics, here also you find certain scope to improve. Then coming to the marketing and sales, where the company tries to price the product optimally, tries to communicate the product with the market, promote it, and try to maximize its sales, for example, right. So, this is a continuous step, right, which is already connected with the service, with the design department. So, the company is continuously trying to improve upon its marketing insights and try to bring in real information from the market to the operations or to the company, so that the design and the operation team can produce such a kind of product which the market actually is looking up for, right. So, in the last lecture, if you remember, I had talked about trapping versus substance, where I had said that B2B marketers generally fall into a trap of being the best producer or the best quality producer. Now, that is a simple trap. Why? Because maybe there are some products which are very good, but customers do not like it because it is very difficult to manage or difficult to handle. They are not user friendly at all. So, this trap of trying to become a very top end technology producer is something that makes a B2B marketer lose out on a lot of customers. Okay. So, marketing and sales actually tells you or keeps you grounded, and it connects you with the actually what the customer wants. And finally, what kind of service, because service becomes a very critical component of the B2B market, right. So, entire differentiation in the B2B market can be brought on by the help of service. For example, what is your delivery process, how much of support you are providing to the customers during installation, repair and maintenance. So, service, all these different kind of support things, the warranty, the in-house maintenance, everything comes into the different the possibilities of the service, right. So, service becomes, as you have seen in the last lecture, that the B2B marketers, they give a large emphasis on the value of the product rather than the price of the product, because I told you that the price is not a list price in the B2B market that is to be considered, but we have to consider the total cost of ownership or the total cost that I will bear if I use product X or product Y or product Z, right. Similarly, in the support activities, you have firm infrastructure like management, finance, legal, planning, human resource management like employee relationships, performance appraisal. So, they are the support activities. They are not directly having an impact, but they are support activities. Technology development, for example, integrated supply chain systems, real time sales information, and procurement, like for example real time inventory, communicating with the suppliers. Nowadays, concepts like vendor managed inventory, just in time. So, all these things are very important because there is very little capacity or very little scope for mistakes. So, nowadays your vendors are involved in the process of managing your inventory for a firm, right. So, value chain analysis is one such concept or aspect which is very powerful, and it can be utilized by all managers in the various firms to improve their efficiency, their profitability, by plugging those weaknesses, their bottlenecks, which are actually not contributing much. Okay. Let us take this example of Pizza Hut. Now, Pizza Hut, many people will wonder why Pizza Hut. So, let us see how Pizza Hut manages its value chain. So, in terms of inbound logistics, if you see, this includes all of the sourcing activities to procure and standardize all the procedure, ingredients and materials to bake pizzas fast, consistently and delicious in-house. So, what they do is they capitalize on the scale of economy and use massive global purchase orders to source the best prices on the raw products. Now Pizza Hut, as you know, these companies, they are differentiating or they are adding value by providing very fast service, right. So they would like to offer you a very good product at a very fast, because this is connected with something like hunger, right. So when people are hungry, they do not want to spend time, right. So when you are hungry, you do not look at your pocket, rather look at how much hungry you are. So Pizza Hut, in order to provide products at a fast pace, they standardize all the products and they try to manage their inventory in such a way that there is never a shortage of the items. Okay. Now, in terms of operations, by targeting areas where there is an affinity for, let us say, Italian food, Pizza Hut operates in large number of countries. So Pizza Hut today is a very popular brand across the world. So I am in India, but people in India, everybody would be knowing, mostly people will be knowing what is Pizza Hut. So this is the operations is managed again by the franchisee model and all, and the company keeps a control over the quality and all, right. Finally, outbound logistics. So there are two models that Pizza Hut capitalizes on: in-store dining and their home delivery service. So Pizza Hut tries to optimize on these two models. So if people, they are would like to visit their store and have their pizza out there in their shop, or they would like to deliver, any pizza company follows this model only, right. Then they spend a lot of money on the marketing and sales. They make a lot of investment in marketing to drive the sales. So you will find a lot of advertisement, promotions, coupons, all this and that to attract the customers, right. Service becomes a very important as a differentiator. I have said the entire goal is to offer value to the customers in affordable and convenient way, right, so that people can enjoy their products. Now, in support activities, the company includes every other activity that is required to keep the stores in business, such as finance, legal, accounts, etc., whatever, right. Interestingly, Pizza Hut, to keep their costs down, they typically hire junior and unskilled workers, right. And for the technology development part, the process they create is to have unskilled chefs cooking their pizza in a big way, right. So what does it mean? Although they hire people who are not so skilled, but the system that they have already developed is so convincing and so easy to operate, that even a person who is not so skilled can perform efficiently, right. So they can get the same taste and flavor of pizza again and again with a regular consistency, right. So that kind of a technology they have developed. So these companies have invested a lot into technology. And finally, when it comes to procurement, the purchasing and activities required to produce the pizza, the raw food and all of the buildings equipment needed to cook and deliver the pizzas. So the company has a very strict policy of how they can support in the procurement process. So today you see procurement is no more procurement. Today we talk about strategic sourcing, right. So most of these companies are involved in the strategic sourcing, right. So I will explain sometimes what is strategic sourcing, why it is different. So strategic sourcing has become a very key driver of the profitability of firms. The next concept which I wanted to discuss is core competency. Now what is core competency? Core competency is basically is the capability that the firm emphasizes and performs especially well while pursuing its vision. Now what is core competency in a simpler way? In a simpler way, it means that as an individual or a firm, only be doing that what I am good at. So I need to identify what is my core competency. Many a times identifying your core competency is a challenge. Now why is it a challenge? I will not name, but a very large business solution provider company initially made a mistake in identifying their core competency. So they thought that hardware is their core competency and software is something they are not good at. What they did was, this company, just for the second you think it is XYZ, this company sold their software part to some other company, right. So they outsourced their services from some outside company and they concentrated on only on the hardware. But later on, after 6-7 years, they realized that they were not good at this hardware, right. So what they did was, they sold their completely, hived off their completely hardware division to another firm which was Chinese, okay, a Chinese firm. What I am talking about is a very large company I am talking about, but interestingly you see even such large companies that I am talking about, they also cannot sometimes understand their core competency. So, identifying a core competency is a very difficult challenge. Nike understood that its core competency was not production, its core competency was marketing and designing, right. Similarly, many firms, they understand that their core competency is maybe faster service, but they are not good at a very optimal product or efficient product or something, but a good service they have. So, identifying a core competency helps the firm achieve a competitive advantage, right. And because this core competencies make you separate you from your competitors, it acts as a differentiator, right. And core competencies enable a firm to complete activities, active effectively, right. So, what it is saying is distinctive competencies provide products to customers that are superior to those competitors. That means core competency, if one firm can identify its core competency, it helps them to understand. For example, this is a very classic case that people think McDonald's is the biggest firm because it produces the best hamburger or the best food item something. But truth is McDonald's resources are actually its infrastructure, its land. They are one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, right. So, now what I am trying to say here is that you need to understand as a company what is your core competency. Your core competency could be design, let us say your design ability. Your core competency could be your logistics, right, your inventory management, your finance management, right. So, it could be anything, even your just marketing could be your core competency. So, what exactly is your core competency? So, what it says is resources create capabilities which are then help you to develop into core competencies. Let us see a few core competencies. So, it says is a bundle of skills and technologies that enable a company to provide a particular benefit to the customer. Example, Sony for a Walkman case, benefit is pocketability, right. So, the core competency was in miniaturization, making small products, right. So, if you have seen a Walkman, Walkman was a very small recorder which made life very easy, and it is called to be, it is known to be history's one of the most classic products, marketing successes. Okay. Federal Express, the core competency it says is benefit is on timely delivery. So, Federal Express may charge you a bit more than the other service providers, but what do they say? That they say our core competency is timely delivery. So, we are the best at if you have some urgency, we are the best. So, we might charge a bit more, but then we provide you the best service. Motorola says untethered communication, that is the core competence is wireless communication. So, our communication will never break and we will be always there, right. So, what benefits do companies get through their core competencies? First of all, it says expertise in integrating multiple technology to create families of new products. So, core competency helps you to understand what you are good at, it improves your logistics expertise, it improves your database skills, it helps you to innovate, it helps you to even enter into new related areas in the market, right. So, core competency saves lot of your human resources and tries to focus on only those areas where you are good at. See, the simple reason being, no company in the world can cater to all the requirements that it has, right. So, it has to depend on certain products or services from outside, right. But it is necessary to understand that since you cannot do everything, what is the best thing that you are good at. So, as a person, as a human being also, as a student or as a working employee, you also need to understand that what is your core competency. Is your core competency in, let us say, working very hard, or you are a very good person in networking, or you are a very good person in analytical skills. What is your core competency? And if you invest more in your core competency as a firm or as an individual, it works in a better way. Okay. Now, Core competency says to be considered core competence, when a skill has to be considered as a core competency, it must meet three tests. What are they? First is customer value. Now, core competencies are the skills that enable a firm to deliver a fundamental customer benefit. Okay. Example, Honda's ability to produce some of the world's best engines and powertrains does provide customers with highly valued benefits of superior fuel economy, right, and zippy acceleration, less noise and vibration. So, that is Honda's core competency. So, what kind of value they are giving to the customers? Okay. So, by creating the best engines in the world. In terms of competitive differentiation, if you see, a capability must also be competitively unique. It should create a differentiation in the market. Now, example, powertrains is a core competency at Honda which has never been so at maybe other companies like Ford, General Motors or Chrysler or anybody, right. So, this makes Honda a different company from its competitors. The third thing, it is extendability. Now, what is extendability? It says a core competitive is truly core when it focuses on the basis for entry into new product markets. So, as I was saying in this previous example, if you can enter into new product markets, right, if your core competency is helping you to extend into new related or unrelated markets, largely related markets obviously, then it is a skill that can be considered to be a core competency, right, for you. Now, example, you see SKF, if you have heard of SKF bearings, one of the world's largest bearing producer in the globally. The world's leading manufacturer of roller bearings has competencies in precision engineering and making perfectly spherical devices. In order to achieve extendability, SKF has extended into chain and sprockets for two-wheelers, timing belts and steering and suspension systems for four-wheelers. So, these kind of skills help you to understand whether I would consider one of the maybe key drivers of my company as a core competency or not, whether it is giving me value, whether it is a differentiator, whether can I extend it in the future. If any of this is a no, then you cannot consider that to be your core competency, right. Now, coming to the third concept is outsourcing. Now, there is a very common line of thinking or generally people get confused that what is outsourcing and what is purchasing, right. Are these two different even? So, when you are talking about outsourcing, yeah, there is a small difference, but we will see how outsourcing is defined first. It is a strategic use of outside resources to perform activities traditionally handled by the internal staff and resources. So, what you were doing earlier yourself, now you are depending on some outside vendor, let us say. The question is, why do you outsource? Now, provides it because it provides services that are scalable, secure and efficient, while improving the overall service and reducing the costs. Okay. So, that is why we would go for outsourcing. So, the question is, then we are doing some similar things in also in purchasing. No, we were not doing these similar things in purchasing, because the key difference between outsourcing and purchasing lies in the ability to manufacture or produce. Now, when you are purchasing, you do not have the ability and you depend on outside vendors. Here, you have the ability, but still for strategic reasons you are depending on the outside vendors. So, you do not want your human resource to get involved or your capital to get invested into those activities where you are not the best, right, or you are not gaining too many benefits. So, if somebody else is doing it well, why not get it done from outside, right. So, what it says is benefits of outsourcing is it reduces and controls the cost of operation, right. Usually this is the main reason, improves the company's focus and it liberates the inner resources for new purposes. So, your people, your capital can be used for better purposes, increase the efficiency for some time consuming functions that the company may lack resources for, right. So, the company feels that is not an important item, we should get away with it. Use external resources as much as possible and sharing the risk with a partner firm. So, these are some of the benefits of outsourcing. But when do you outsource? What is the right time to outsource? or what is the right situation to outsource. So, this is a PwC model, Price Waterhouse Coopers model, which says that you should outsource when the product is a non-competitive product and it falls also under the non-strategic. So, neither it adds, it is a non-strategic item. So, that means it is not so important for you, and it does not give you any benefit in the profitability, right. So, it is not, it is an, sorry, not benefit in the profit, obviously profit would increase, non-competitive in the nature, in the sense that it does not add any significant value, right. So, here if it is a non-competitive and non-strategic product, so you should definitely outsource. But if it is a competitive item, right, where you need to be best, right, and it is strategic in nature also, so you should never outsource. And this is an area where it says it is a gray area, it is very difficult to say what you should do. So, it is left onto the manager's own thought process, what he should be thinking about it. And in this place, if you look at this quadrant, if it is a non-competitive product, but it is strategic in nature, then it is again better to produce in-house. So, PricewaterhouseCoopers model tells you in which conditions a company should go for outsourcing and which condition they should not go for outsourcing. And the challenges with outsourcing are also many. For example, you see, there can be a loss of control. Now, you have started outsourcing from outside vendors, and because of this, after certain years of time, you have lost your control. You do not know how to make those items, how to manage the inventory, how to, you do not know, you have lost your expertise. So, there is an increased cash outflow. Cash is going out now because you are getting it done from some supplier. Confidentiality and security is a issue, because you may lose out, because if suppose it is a strategic item as this one, right. So, if it is a strategic item, then you may lose your confidentiality and security. Selection of the supplier is a challenge. You may become too dependent on the service provider. It may be time consuming, and it has some other issues also. So, like for example, you can see this, right. So, the provider is slow to react to changes in strategy. Suppose the the demand in the market or the trend in the market changes tomorrow. So, in case you want to do it, you want to react to the market's need, you want to increase your agility, you would not be able to do it. Why? Because you are dependent on somebody else, and here it is very difficult to now streamline the processes. So, please remember, in the B2B market, switching cost is a very important factor, switching time, switching cost, because it is not easy to make a change immediately in the B2B market. It takes a lot of time. Okay. Let us take a small case and we will wind up the lecture here today. So, this company is HK Electroplating Company, which started the electroplating operations in a residential location in Bangalore in 1989. So, it received a notice from the Pollution Control Board to install the effluent treatment plant within 15 days, failing which they would seal the plant. So, very serious issue, right. Okay. Now, the director of the company collected the information that it would cost about 5 lakh to buy an effluent treatment plant, a machine required for that, right, and an area of 600 square foot would be required to install over a period of 2 to 3 months. The running cost is about 20,000 per month, and you will require materials like caustic soda and others. The effluent contained nickel, cyanide, chromium, cadmium and zinc, which were to be treated separately using different chemicals. After the effluent liquid of about 800 liters per day was treated, the sludge was to be dried, packed, stored and dumped in a government notified place. So, you can see the things. The entire process would not only cost a substantial amount, but also would need an additional area, which I have already mentioned, about 600 to 700 square feet. The company gathered information that some of the competitors outsourced the effluent treatment of the government approved agencies, who collected the effluent liquid from these chemical and electroplating factories and treated them, right. These agencies charged a 5 to 10 rupees per liter, right, depending on the type of chemicals that were present in the effluent, right. The cost of outsourcing was considered much higher compared to the in-house effluent treatment plant. However, HK Electroplating Company, like many other chemical and electroplating factories, did not have additional area for the installation. So, area was a constraint to them. So, in this condition, the director was aware the liquid waste from the factory would have harmful effects in the surrounding if they leave it to the surrounding residential areas. He also could not violate the government regulation. So, he had very little time, about 2 weeks, 15 days to decide and act. Now, in such a condition, what would the director do if you were in the place of the director? Let us say, what would you do? So, take a pause and try to think about it, what you would do in this case. Okay. So, there are three questions. Is it a wise decision to outsource effluent treatment plants? One. If you were the director of the company, what would you do and why? And do you think the outsourcing vendors are B2B firms? You may explain. So, please first answer these three questions, take your time, and then I have a tentative answer which I have made of my own. We can compare it. First question, is it a wise decision to outsource? Considering the urgency of the situation and seriousness of the issue, I think yes, it is better to outsource. Why? Because you have been given only a 15 days time, and if you do not do, the plant will be sealed, right. So, nothing is better than saving the surviving first. So, the company, in order to survive, needs to come out of this issue first. So, I do not think there is any other way than outsourcing. Okay. Maybe if they look at a long term perspective, after outsourcing for a while, maybe they can think of making arrangements to do it in house. That is a separate thing. But at the moment, outsourcing looks the only way out, right. Second, if you were the director of the company, what would you do and why? I would have found an agency which would do it at the lowest cost possible and outsource to stay out from legal issues. So, because we not only face legal issues, we spoil our image in the market as a result of it, right. But yes, as a director, I would surely have asked my team of people why they were not aware that such a thing was happening in the market and why we were so late to react, right. This would have been one important point which I would have surely, as a director of the company, looked into why we were late to react. So, I would have tried to find the reason, and so that we do not become late in some certain other conditions in the future, right. Do you think these outsourcing vendors are B2B firms? Yes, they are the B2B firms, because these firms which facilitate our production process, they are actually providing B2B services. So, both it is a B2B case, because the buying and the supplying firm are also B2B firms, because they are not individually dealing with customers, but they are dealing with clients who are largely industrial houses. Okay. So, these are the three questions. So, these three questions, if you just try to sit back in your free time and try to answer, it will give you some better understanding and clarity about how B2B firms work and how services are important to them. Okay. So, this is all I had for the day. So, we will wind up here. I hope you had a good day and you learned what I was trying to explain. So, thank you very much. We will meet in the next lecture.